if we were able to survive St. Paul's
Okay.
and survive the Nigerian issue, I think we'll survive it.
You're right. You're right.
So I'm noticing the Grand Knight is with us.
Would that be Mr.
Knight Ernesto.
Oh, excellent, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. That's good. It's good. It's good to have.
My Grand Knight, sir. I expect, sir.
Hello, sir. Good to have your audience with us. I would just go through pleasantries and then we can kick off. Obviously, you have some audience here, which is brilliant, and I would advise if obviously, because this is being recorded, if you wish to be on it, that's fine. If you don't, you can switch off your video and then just listen in. If you do have questions, any question at all for myself or for Celeste, use the chat function, please. Just drop in a question there and we can pick it up and then interact with it as well. All right, so I'll just address you as Celestine then.
Toner. Well, most people know me as Toner. Celestine Toner is okay.
Okay, fair enough. Preference is good. You know, okay. I'm happy with that. But I know you're Celestine, so yeah, more than likely that might come out a couple of times.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's just a conversation. It's just a chat. We want to unlock value as we get along, especially from the diaspora point of view. And it goes to serve the platform and in terms of giving back to both communities, both yours in America and us in the UK, and definitely for our brothers and our friends over in Africa and Nigeria. Yeah. Okay, so let's go through it, Celestine. The key thing is welcome to the platform.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you again.
It's awesome seeing you again, honestly. I know we've interacted over the years once or twice for the last almost the last 30 years now.
Yes, yes.
Ages. And there's always a pleasure seeing your works. I notice them online and I see how not only how receptive it is to the community around you. Those are the values that we've been pushing and singing, the praises we've been singing with regards to how culture is being exhibited in the diaspora.
Yeah.
All right, which is why we're here today to just have a conversation about those cultural awareness that we some people seem to not appreciate, you know, or some people don't seem to understand, or more than likely some people don't seem to value. So let's have a chat about those things. If you want to get personal on it, it's fine, or we can approach it from a high level as well. Both ways is fine with me. So for friendship's sake, I would leave the floor for you to just put an icebreaker on it and tell us a little bit about just what you've been up to. You know, how did you get into pushing culture, especially the Nigerian culture within your community, and where you are significantly today that you know is value driven, and then you know, we can come in and converse.
Thank you. Again, thanks to technology, we are able to reconnect. You have people all over the world. The Grand Knight of St. Columbus is with us here. I see people from Nigeria logging in all over the world, from the United States. It shows the power of technology. My names are Celestine Toner Okay. Some know me as Toner because that's my house name, which means praise God. Toner. My English name is Celestine. And as you know, you and I are Catholics.
That's right.
We practically grew up together at St. Paul's Catholic Church in Benin.
Many years ago, but yes.
You were my senior as a mass server.
That's correct.
Because I think you had left when I joined.
No, I think we served a couple of times, but you know, memory fails me with regards to which particular church. But I think we did serve a couple of times.
St. Paul's, Benin, Bomudia, Stephen, and Co.
No, I meant, you know, they had the old building and then the new one.
Oh, the new one is the one I meant.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, so we come from a Catholic home. Your father, there can be no better man that you may say, I am copying, if you want to say copying or following his footsteps, than your dad. Your dad, Chief Gabriel, Dr. Aleto, who is it's about what the best of Catholic you will find anywhere in the world. And he was a scout commissioner and a chief. So
Yeah.
it carries those three things together. As a Catholic, I believe doctor is a knight. He may be, I think your dad is a knight.
He's involved with the Knights of the Knights of St. Vincent de Paul,
St. Vincent de Paul.
Knights of St. Malumba as well.
Thank you.
But he's not a knight in that order. But I know he's maybe a frequent guest.
Yeah. So, and he was a scout commissioner.
Yes.
He practically all scouts in our state passed through your dad.
More or less, yeah. Significantly, yeah. And Africa as well.
A chief who has more than 4 titles. I know your dad is the Akugbe of Iroa.
That's correct.
He has a bead, the Eware beads from the immediate past above Benin. He holds a title in Ebele Kingdom in Igweben, where my friend the Aisen Cares come from. I know Ken is the Ode of Obele. So your dad, I grew up watching people like your dad, how he's able to mix being a Christian, a Catholic, a medical doctor, and using culture as that platform to move our society. And I'm sure you equally remember my dad was a commissioner.
That's correct.
And also a commissioner of local government and chieftaincy affairs.
That's correct.
So at the time, his portfolio was taking care of all the kings in Bendel. We're not talking of Delta now, all the kings in Bendel. So he was the chairperson of the Oba of Benin, the Olu of Wari, the Deng of Agbo. So from those times, I began to learn our culture. So when my mates were playing, I was watching my dad, mixing with people like your dad, kings and co. So I started taking interest in culture. As Nelson Mandela would say, there can be no surer way to success than for a son to walk in the footsteps of his father.
That's correct.
And the Grand Knight is with us. He can confirm when they invited me to be the Chancellor of the Knights of Columbus, which I am today. I told him, I said, look, I'm only doing this for one reason. I'm pursuing my father's footsteps. He has been a Grand Knight. He's a Knight Emeritus. So I want to look at him one day and say, okay, you've done it, I've done it. So that is the inspiration that has moved me, that I'm in America today. By the grace of God, I'm the only African who the state government has appointed as a member of the South Carolina Cultural and Linguistic Committee. I am, by the grace of God, the Chancellor of the Knights of St. Columbus, the largest Knight fraternity, Catholic fraternity in the whole world. And that we have the Grand Knight with us is a testament that we are working together.
Amazing.
And also, I'm the president of the African community in South Carolina. Not only Africans, African Americans, African in the Caribbean. So what I saw in Nigeria, people like your dad and my dad, has propelled me. As they say in Latin, nemo dat quod non habet. You can't give what you don't have. So that's what has driven me to where I am today. So you can find my culture, you can find my tradition as a Catholic, you can find my father's footsteps in me, and nothing pleases me the most than for people to look at me and say, as you know, you are the son of your father. Excellent. There can be no greater joy in me whenever people see me and say, oh, that's the Grand Knight's son. Nothing gives me more joy than that. So that is who I am today, and I thank you for giving me that audience.
Excellent. You know what, Celestine? I think when it comes to just setting the tone, you've done it excellently, because at the end of the day, it's key that people understand where you're coming from, the values that drive you, and the principles that you abide with, right? So yes, it is, as you look at things these days, difficult to find someone who's an Advent Christian at the same time deep into the cultural side of things. This is because the orientation somehow along the line has been misguided to say that those two cannot coexist and prepare forward for a better individual. Obviously, we've given examples going from my dad and your dad and a few other people that we know who are really, really solid with their Christian faith and on the Catholic side of things, but still integrate, interact, and help drive cultural values within their immediate community. So yes, okay. Thank you for the accolades to my dad. Yes, he does have 4 chieftaincy titles, and you can imagine how influential that has been on myself as well. Because as you know, all the coronations that he had, we had to attend them. You know, and most of these were in palaces, most of these were in traditional places, most of these were in places deep rooted in culture. You know, and obviously to serve the people, you have to experience their culture, and then you can deliver value through their culture. So let's go back to what it is that we're getting.
Before we go back, I think you need to introduce yourself. Tell our viewers where you're hosting this from, because we have people from Nigeria, America. I see some from England. I've seen two friends.
No problem. No problem, Celestine. My fault, right? Obviously, my intention was, hey, let me have a conversation with you on a one-to-one basis, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But obviously, I see a few people here who you've invited, and I think it's only fair that you guys get to know exactly who it is we all are. So my name is Solomon. That's my first name. Other name is Ozemoya, and my last name is Aleto. I am in the UK currently. I've been in the UK for about 26 years. I grew up in, I was born in the UK, but we grew up in Nigeria. And while growing up in Nigeria, based on positions being held by our parents, we got to know each other, and we've been very, very good friends ever since. Our parents are close friends. Obviously, rightfully, the kids are good friends as well. And we have interacted right from when we were kids on intellectual matters and matters that affect us. So it's not a, it's a no-brainer for us to be sitting here today having this conversation when things are supposed to happen. So I'm a digital marketer by profession. So this is not my full-time job. But we own a platform called the New Nigerian Platform. It's a platform driven by the ideology of wanting to expose more about our cultural values. And at the same time, the key thing is unlocking the resources between the diaspora and Nigeria. Simply because the advent of COVID now has made a lot of people realize that we can come together, we can be at home and interact effectively, and we're all online these days. Obviously, COVID has accelerated everybody online. So how do we explore, or rather amplify the messages we have, amplify the values that we have, and use that resource to empower folks that we know need it? The platform goes on a weekly basis, and obviously, Celestine, I think you've been to a few. We talk about unlocking things, but we identify key individuals who are people who influencers, but people who can impact a given society. So Celestine might be doing something fantastic in South Carolina, and then we can say, can we amplify that? Or you and your audience, or you and your contemporaries that you're working with, can you guys put something together that we can replicate within a community back home in Nigeria or in Africa, or even within your diaspora community, to enhance that value? So that is what I'm about, not to talk too much about it, but my key is, hopefully, if you guys have any questions, like I said, just drop it on the chat and we'll address it from there. Why we're here is to talk about how culture can really, really influence and better the lives of individuals we see at home and abroad. And this is not specific to us Nigerians. It's no, if people recognize culture, they understand the human being better. So I hope that is a 1 minute take on where we are. All right.
Well spoken. As we say in our place, a child of a lion, an Uduma, is also an Uduma.
Fair enough. Yeah, a lion cannot give birth to a goat. Okay. So let's kick it into the nick of things. Cultural awareness in the diaspora. I'll tell you where we want to come from, right? If you are aware these days, there's a lot of things said about Africans in general and in diaspora. Some people, obviously, we know were brought here, but some of us are here by choice. And then there are others like myself and yourself who have made that decision to come and make a life from the diaspora so we can give back going forward. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how culture has actually influenced your life in the diaspora, leaning on the value that you see working with people, you know, the likes of the counselors and all whatnot, who can gain that value, and how we can now say, start appreciating this thing, packaging it, and giving that realization to folks back home to say, this is really on, we need to key into it.
Yes. So, well, first and foremost, as we say in my place, egu yebido egu memuno before you jewezi. That means you begin to dance from your home before you go to the market square. You know, so charity begins at home. First, we must understand what is culture. Culture is the way of life of a people. And in that culture, you have a lot of things. We as Africans or Nigerians are communal by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Your family is my family. I remember when I lost my younger brother, 1991. It was your father that night who more or less stayed as a father to my father. He was the leader that night. So your joy is my joy, your pain is my pain.
Mm-hmm.
That is our culture. So first of all, wherever we find ourselves, we must first understand who we are. One of the brightest legal minds we ever had in Nigeria, Lord Kayode Esho, once said, you can't build something on nothing and expect it to stay, to collapse. So first you must know who you are. I tell people the greatest discovery you can do on life is to discover who you are. When you know who you are, then you can go out and be proud of who you are. The Knights of Columbus here, the Grand Knight is with us, is Italian. He has an Italian heritage and he's proud of who he is. I am a Nigerian, I'm the Chancellor, I'm proud of who I am. You must be proud of who you are. Then when you understand that and you live in a foreign land, as we say, your father will say, don't spoil my name. When you know the son, who you are, that name, anywhere you go, anything you do, you look at the name first. I am the son of Okay. So anything I do, I remember first, that name doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my father. So when you know these things, in America, for example, when I got here, I discovered first and foremost, Americans love our culture. But I find our people are so ashamed of who they are. Let's take the Catholics, for example, Nigerian Catholics. They will celebrate St. Patrick's Day. They will celebrate Halloween. They will celebrate Greek festival. They will celebrate Jewish festival or the Israeli festival. They will never do anything Nigerian festival, as if it's a crime. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, we were told in the Bible, performed Jewish feasts.
Yep.
He slaughtered lambs. So why should I be ashamed of where I come from? Who says I can't pour libation in honor of my fathers? When we call Jesus in the Bible today, we say Jesus is the son of David from the house of Jesse. Those are his ancestors. So who says I can't call my ancestors? Who says it's a crime? So when you know these things, you can begin to mix in any land you find yourself. Americans love our culture. When in my church I attend, when even the priest, when they saw my mom, some people think I'm a priest when they see my robes. They go to the priest. Is he a priest from Nigeria?
Right.
I'm so proud of who I am. And the anointing is this. Those from the lower cadre of our society are the ones that have come to America and England and are pretending to be more American or more British than the British. Some people see me and think I'm from the village. And I tell them, no, I'm proud of who I am. Now, when we mix that with the society here, be a good ambassador of who you are. When I go to events, I use my red cloth and cover my mouth. And I tell the Americans, in the days past, when kings speak, you don't see their teeth. They cover it. When the wives of kings, your younger sister, the day I went to see her in Benin, with out of respect, she ran to me, brother, and she hugged me. I said, you won't kill me in Benin. You won't kill me in Benin. Don't hug me. But out of respect, she hugged me. But the tradition is, as the wife of the son of a king, she wasn't supposed to hug me. But out of the respect she had for me, she hugged me. And I'm like, you ain't going to kill me in Benin. So what am I saying? You can mix culture and use that as an ambassador. I am today, by the grace of God, a member of South Carolina Cultural Committee. I don't know the governor for Adams, but they appointed me as a member because they recognize anywhere I go. If I go to state events, I speak Ika language for the first 10 seconds before I speak English. So proud of who I am. In my office, I work with the state. I wear suit Monday to Thursdays. On Fridays, I dress our African attires.
Right.
Why should I be ashamed of myself? When you are natural, you can begin to be an ambassador of your culture. And what is the African culture? Because some of our people have looked down on our culture and have sold it out as a fetish culture. No, the African culture is a place where the man is the king of his house. He is loyal to his God. He is humble and carries his family like this. The wife, when people see me and say, oh, Africans, you put your wives down. I'm like, no. The proper African wife married to a proper African man has more privileges than the so-called Western culture. Because as I am, my wife is my barometer. What I won't give myself and my children, I give my wife first. Because society will judge me looking my wife.
Awesome.
So when I tell people, if you don't know the African culture, that's when you put it down. The proper African culture is about the man being the umbrella of his family, taking care of his wife and children, even to his own detriment.
Well, you know, that is significant with obviously we being Christians and Catholic. It's like the Holy Family in that regard. So you have the man, the father, and the child. You know, it's what it signifies from a cultural point of view as well. So aligning with religion on a way,
yes,
if appreciated properly. The two structures are similar. So you find in a situation where people who are exceptionally really, really tight in their faith, they tend to align with being really tight in their family values as well, you know, because they're all intertwined. And if you reverse the scenario as well, so if you have a guy who is at home, a really family man taking care of his wife and his children, more than likely has a spiritual inclination in his dealings, not necessarily being a Christian per se, but culturally, you would realize that he has some aspect of culture. You know, it's great that you've laid that for us, because what is missing is voices like you defining those little key nuggets within our space. Being in the diaspora is a whole different ballgame. I mean, there are circumstances where you know that people look at you in the diaspora and say, oh no, this guy is actually lost, you know, or you're just living there, you don't know what's happening at home. And these are things that we face constantly, especially for us who have decided more or less to remain here for X and Y reasons. One of the key drivers that you can imagine is you being a Nigerian, so you have to exhibit what you know. You know, you can't exhibit something else. I know this is a case where a lot of people look at Africans and say, okay, maybe all of us are the same. A lot of people look at Nigerians and assume everybody's the same. A lot of people look at people from Bender State and assume they're the same. So you can come down granular like that and people just assume. But the truth of the matter is every country and every whatever tribe, they have their unique cultural values, right? If we look at the Nigerian culture as a whole, having grown up within that space, which we did, there are certain values that are generic with how a typical Nigerian operates from a cultural point of view. And these values hint around the fact that yes, there's the home, and yes, you understand those things that align you with the village and with your traditional rulers, and you amplify that every opportunity you get. One key thing being a Nigerian that I would like to ask of you is, I like the way you showcase your tribe, right? I like the way you highlight what it means. And I enjoy the way you said, look, you give a speech, you talk for X and Y at a time, for X amount of minutes before you actually break into English, showing that, you know what, you're ready to engage, but let me satisfy my soul first. Now, from that point of view, you being a Nigerian out there in the diaspora, are there values that you see in other Nigerians that you think, well, oh, this guy is from a different place, but him exhibiting his culture makes me feel so important or so unique or so appreciated, because you can see he's doing the same thing for his own tribe?
Yes. Yes. Wherever you come from in Africa, even Italian, like the Grand Knight is Italian, and I speak some Italian. Whenever we meet, we talk. You can see that joy in us. So culture doesn't matter whether you're from Nigeria, you're from anywhere. The issue is when I see somebody displaying and proud of his culture, it makes me happy. You know, so when I watch somebody from afar showing the world who you are, Jesus himself, when he got lost in the temple, he said, Mother, do you not know I will do my father's job?
That's right.
So he was proud of his culture. Show the world who you are, and people will love you when they see the genuineness about you. I'll give you a quick example. A few months ago, the Knights called me and asked me to be the chancellor. Here am I, I'm the youngest among them, the poorest among them, all the lowest indexes. I'm the lowest
I
among
doubt
them.
that. When you say the
No, no,
poor,
we're
I
talking of
doubt
men
that.
in their 50s and 60s and 70s, distinguished statesmen of the highest orders. Some are retired judges, retired engineers. What they found in me, the youngest of them all, the newest of them all, I couldn't fathom. So I told them, is this a ploy to laugh at me or to set a banana peel for me? And they said, no. I said, well, I will take it, but I come to you as a son.
Yeah.
But it saw something in me. And that's the message I tell our Africans. When you go out, be yourself. Be proud of who you are. Even if you are poor, even if you have one shirt, wash it every day. There is a difference between how you carry yourself and being a proud person. There are two things.
You're right.
You can carry yourself with grace. It doesn't mean you're proud.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when you take your culture, and for example, libation, 21 times in the New Testament, St. Paul called libation. There is a part he says, pour me out as a libation. So when I tell Nigerians who are Christians, libation is not fetish. St. Paul in the book said, pour me out. Libation is just honoring your ancestors. So what I do now is I try to use culture and religion to preach to our people that it is not okay to make your language to go into extinction. When I see the Grand Knight, I speak the little Italian I know, so I can remember. So let us have our culture. My wife is Yoruba. Unfortunately, she doesn't speak my language, but I speak her language because I was born and raised in Lagos.
Right.
So when a third party comes to my house, I'll speak Yoruba. So it's essential that we know a language and show to the world that we are proud. I tell people, they know Yorubas. African Americans only know Yoruba culture. Since I came in, they now dress like this. I saw it for them in Nigeria. I tell them there is the Benin Kingdom. There are Ishans. There are Ikas. So I'm now educating them. They don't know in the past. To have the Grand Knights join you and I tells you what we are doing here, promoting our culture.
I think it's a great thing, and can I address the night as Ernesto?
Please, yes, please.
Okay, yeah, okay. And if it's okay, I'll probably ask one or two questions, just so we can keep the interactions going.
Yes.
It's only fair because everyone on the call, you're on the call, so feel free to chat. Like I said, it's not really a formal interview; it's just a chat with an old buddy. So feel free to ask us away. The thing is, right, you just hinted at something that is really, really key to what we're doing on the platform. And obviously, you've experienced what it is and we are pushing forward. It's not limited to the UK. It's not limited to the United States. It's a diaspora thing, which is a case of, hey, look, can we really get across and try and see if we can find some unison in what we're doing, exhibit and amplify what it is, the values hidden within the conversations. In this conversation, for instance, you said something about, not being really ashamed of who you are and not letting your language die. You see, when I come across Africans per se in the diaspora, I make it a point of duty to ask where they're from, not from a racial point of view or from a segmenting point of view. It's basically so I can align with a cultural value that I already know. Because I have that mindset. If I meet someone from maybe from Timbuktu as well, I want to know if he knows about the old knowledge and all the old ancient wisdom. I just want to know their culture. And reversing the situation, when I meet people and I tell them where I'm from, especially where my mom's from, they ask me about the hills over there because it's kind of unique where she's from. So those are the things that you would find among us that I think in the diaspora are not being exhibited or amplified enough. Well, you're doing your bit. which is how it's supposed to be. But there are communities, especially in America, where even the Black communities there, they're still lacking a little bit of cultural awareness. But if they don't have platforms like us to say, look, check this out, you might gain one or two values from it, and align with it, then there's no way that culture we're trying to exhibit would continue or would grow. So looking at what you've been through, for instance, yeah, especially I'm pretty sure you face challenges, right? So I'm gonna call you out on that one a bit. I know you face challenges. You must have had some negative what's the word now, encounters with regards to people, with regards to people or institutions per se, maybe suggesting you tone stuff down a bit, in terms of exhibiting your cultural awareness. To me, I think that's wrong. Right? To buttress on that, do you agree that it's wrong for us to take that stand and tone down who we are and where we're from?
Yes, so well, because a sage once said, all that evil needs to triumph is that good men do nothing, Edmund Burke. And what is essential is you and I doing our bit, wherever you find yourself. Do the little you can. And they say the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Do the bit you can. Others will follow after you. When men like Nelson Mandela, Marcus Garvey, even your father, when they started these scouts in the 70s, it wasn't like the way it is today, but they've laid the foundation. And what some of us are doing here is to showcase our culture.
That's correct.
People are beginning to know. So they say to you, tell me about Africa. And I tell them. And some is like a quick example. But no, I don't want to lose track. I want to go to the question. Have I faced challenges? Yes.
Feel free to digress and come back. That's fine.
And I'll be very frank with you. The greatest challenge I have had is with my fellow Blacks. And I say this without fear or favor. The whites, regardless of what you want to say, have been more receptive. African Americans, sort of. The greatest challenge I have had is from my people. One, they come here, they forget who they are. All of a sudden, everything about African culture is poisonous. They don't want to come. But if I invite them now for a state event, for St. Patrick's Day, for Halloween, they will jump in and be the special guest of honor. They will donate the most.
Right.
Invite them for Asian Day, Igwe Festival. God forbid.
Yeah.
So the greatest challenge I've had is from Nigerians.
Okay.
Some having the audacity, some that I know, they have the audacity to question me. And sometimes I've been so annoyed to turn to them and say, my father retired from Central Bank as a principal manager of the Nigerian Foreign Reserve, served as a state commissioner under 4 governors, is a grand knight. That's on one side.
Okay.
On the other side, yes, I have faced racism in this society. I have lived around the world. I lived in England from 94 to 98.
Yeah, I remember that.
I moved to Dublin, Ireland, 98 to 2005. I am the first Nigerian to be ordained in the Catholic Church in Ireland as a minister of the word, the Archbishop of the Dublin Diocese, who is retired now. Cardinal Amon, I can't remember his last name, ordained me in the year 1999 as a minister of the word in the Catholic Church, Dublin. I schooled in India and I've lived in America. So I've seen all cultures. Okay. And what I tell people, and I've been around Europe, there is few countries in Europe, maybe 1 or 2 I've not seen. So I keep telling people, if you are proud of your culture, you will find challenges. There are challenges everywhere in the world, even in your family. Relatively, I was the most stubborn in my house. So I don't blame my dad and my mom for not liking me as the best.
That's fair enough.
but because I was the most stubborn. I was rebellious when I was growing up. So do I blame them? No.
No,
So what am I saying? Even in the family, you're going to find favoritism.
you're right.
I tell people, build a thick skin, showcase who you are, challenges will come. Even Jesus said, I will be with you to the end of time. Even him faced challenges. A time he said, Father, let this cup pass over.
Awesome.
He did not want it. So challenges will come. But what we must do, as they say,
Yeah.
quitters don't win because winners don't quit. Keep moving, keep marching, be who you are. People will see it at the long run. That grace you carry, the truth you speak about,
Yeah.
people will see it.
You know what? You know why I really wanted you to hint on that? Because I think a lot of people need to hear that, just from an inspirational point of view. That lots of we are struggling with a situation where you have lots of Africans, lots of Nigerians in particular, this being the case in point, who tend to have kind of a lost that sense of belonging. Not just a case of them being out here, but because they've been influenced by so many things. So you look at technology, even the form of education sometimes could be influential. The political structure, it being really structured here and well organized, can influence the guy who wants to go into politics in Nigeria to just focus here and not really give a damn. Music, the same thing. You might come and get influenced. So there's lots of factors that have influenced or can influence the mindset of somebody who was culturally inclined before. Platforms like this, and obviously what you were doing, aims to help that. But what we are looking at now, if we move on to something more crucial, and this is where I might ask Aneto for one or two nuggets or tips, or him being Italian, and I know Italy is a very cultural place. Last year we were in San Remo and it was unbelievable where we saw the whole family unit. It was almost identical to how we live in Nigeria. So I'm sure you can help us out here. So what we're doing is, okay, how do we, as a unit, when it comes to giving back, how do we bridge that gap? I know the Italians have done it. I know the Irish have done it. Even the Germans have done it, and the Jews have done it. A lot of people have done it. Who nations who found themselves out in the diaspora, somehow aligned, and now they're giving back. Right? So it's enough to say, look, you can make a difference. You can make an impact. You can affect change. You can promote values. But we have to come up with our solution as a collective. This is why we're here today having this conversation, to look for ways to unlock that cultural value as a topic. So guys, how do we start? Let's make it open. And Esther, please chip in whenever you feel it. How do we start by saying, look, how do we bridge the gap between diaspora and obviously the native land, regardless of where it is, but Nigeria in this case in point?
Well, first of all, again, I'd like to thank Tana for the invitation. I'd like to thank you, Sol, for the setup of the platform, the topic, and as Tana has mentioned, and I think you had you put it very well, because really, that has nothing to do where we come from in the globe. Especially today, we are in a global society. And in effect, the world is getting smaller and smaller because, look at us today. Okay, Tony is here in Colombia, a few miles from where I am, but you're in UK. We could be very well connected. I am a project manager working for Westinghouse, and my teams, I have international teams. Well, not right now, but I did have in the past. And basically, I had literally a 2-hour span to be able to connect Asia, Europe, and the United States so that we could have a meeting such as this. Now, going back to culture, I think Tona hit it right, the nail on the head, or whatever the expression is.
Yeah, that's it, the nail on the head.
Because basically, it is if you know yourself. So the first thing is to basically look into yourself and find who you really are before you can actually go out into the world. I am Italian, but Italy is, as you mentioned, it's a lot of cultures. Basically go thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
Now, I am from Sicily. Now, even within Sicily, we have regions where the culture, even with the town that I was born in, we had 16,000 people in the village or in the town, but even within the small area, you have pockets that the culture within that narrow town is different than the upper part versus the lower part versus the center part. So if you are, and I guess this goes back to even the culture of the family.
Right.
If you're born in a family that promotes openness, in a family that promotes, in a way, risk, because I always say, you know, we have two lovely, well, now they are at the house, but a boy and a girl. And I always said, I want them to fail when they are in the house with me so that I can monitor how they fail, so that I can help them get up again and run.
Right.
So again, this is part of the culture,
Right.
that the way you raise your kids, the way you work with your family unit, that now you're working with each other. And that, I think, it's something that you bring with you. When I saw Tona, you know, you can see that he knows who he is and he's proud of who he is. And that's what makes all of us, in a way, different and able to connect as a unit. Now, also, I have seen people from African descent, even within the different regions of the United States. In New York City, here in South Carolina, Florida, I mean, we've been in different states within the United States, and it's amazing the culture that of African descent in New York City versus here in South Carolina and Colombia.
Yeah.
I see myself a big difference. I have people that I work with that they are from Nigeria, people from Jamaica, totally different, you know, just the way they, and I think it's because deep down, as I have got to know them more and more, it's really because they have the self-consciousness, the self-awareness, the high self-esteem of themselves. So I think that, you know, the base is really there. Know who you are and know yourself as you embrace the community, the diversity. So
That's great stuff.
that's and I'm working with Tone and a couple of other people in the group to basically embrace other cultures that are in our community, because our church is a multicultural church. But yet, if we look at the Knights of Columbus, right now, the group is, at least the ones that are active, is very, just very few. It's all one class in a way. I don't see a diversity of culture. And that's part of our mission this fraternal year, to basically embrace the cultures that are around us and let them bloom like a rose, basically.
That's great. That's amazing. You see, while you were speaking, I was trying to unlock those key values that would help us unify or amplify these kind of conversation. That diversity of culture. I'm a big fan of diversity and being inclusive as well. You know, and I think that is a driving factor that can help us culturally if we accept our diversity, accept that we have to be inclusive in how we're doing. So this can unlock the value. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that because the nuggets in there is very valuable. And going forward, people listen to this and understand that regardless, we are all trying to to engage. We're all trying to progress, and we're all trying to be one happy family. Right. Giving back is one thing that we've always done, Celestine. Remind me calling you Celestine again. That's probably what I'm going to run away with. Right. So giving back is one thing that we've always been doing right from day one. As you know, while our parents did a lot of social works, especially with the community, most of them voluntary. So we all already knew how to give back, right? But the challenges we're faced with now is different. It's a different form of giving back. So it's basically like you creating a persona of yourself and then letting people know that this is what you represent and hoping that they understand it. That way you give back their cultural value. Now, let's look at it from your point of view, all right? Because we barely have about 15, 20 minutes, right? When you're giving back, right, what values do you see or do you recognize as you're doing this? Because it's essential that people know that level of appreciation. You know, people see it happening because you have hit the reality.
Yes.
So.
Thank you. Before I speak, I recognize there is a chief who's representing the Agbo Kingdom here. He's actually calling in from Agbo. He is the I won't remember his title now, but he's representing the kingdom. Chief Utebo, if you're with us, please just let yourself be seen, please. Because I reached out to him,
right,
so that he can contribute also as a chief from the Agbo Kingdom. But let's proceed why he will join me. When I give, the issue of giving back to the society comes from two angles. First, as a Catholic and a Christian, our Lord tells us that it is more blessed to give than to receive.
That's right.
That's one. Two. And in my place, we say, Ito Dikin and Come, when you praise Oliver de Coke sang it, he says, when you praise a strong man, a dike, it will do more. So I think that society has been fair to us, but if I must be frank, America has given me everything I've worked for. Anything I have in Nigeria is on my father's name.
Right.
But this is the country where I have worked and served, and they've appreciated me. But Nigeria, America, anywhere you find yourself, I tell people, it is good to give back to the society.
100%.
Because as you give, you learn more. Even for me, for example, when I was doing some research about your father's title, the Akugbe of Irua, I reached out to an Ishan in Houston, and I said, look, tell me what's the Akugbe? And he said, Akugbe is the one who unites people. In my place, we say, Ikokome, the one who kokomes people.
All right.
So if you take a look at history and culture, we are all one. Whether you're Benin, Ishan, Igbo, it's the same thing. When you have empower others. A Chinese sage, Confucius, once said, if your dream is for 1 year, plant rice. If your dream is for 10 years, plant a tree.
Yep.
And if your dream is for 100 years, educate our children. So what I believe we need the most now is to reach out to our society, whether here or Nigeria, to educate the younger ones. That the Nigeria you see today is not the Nigeria of our ancestors, not the Nigeria that it should be. Our society today is hemorrhaging. We have lost course. What we must begin to do is to catch them young, speak to those in primary schools, give them science and technology, buy laptops for them, go to your community and tell people, figure out 20 kids, speak to their parents, speak to the kids, use laptops for them, use science and technology to drive the new Nigeria, teaching them first what it means to be a patriotic citizen, what it means to be a being, how to be respectful. During our time, there are times you start job now, then you buy 505 2.0. Your father will query you because it will take you more than 10 years to buy a 505. But today you go home, you bring riches, people are celebrating you. We must begin to teach our children that it pays to serve, that meritocracy is the order of the day. When we begin to use meritocracy and teach our kids with science and technology to drive the new Nigeria, you will see the new Nigeria.
Awesome. The conversation is driven by value. So as much valuable points that come out for me, it's better for me. You see, the key thing is that we need to identify with these key values when we're giving back. You've highlighted some few key things, especially in terms of education. Obviously, education is not just sending the individual to school. Comprises of learning, comprises of hosting seminars like this or chats like this, and then feeding that content back to people to say, look, these are conversations that you can listen to and get some key nuggets from. That might change a course of, a direction you were going before. right? So yes, I completely agree with you that, hey, look, we have to educate on a level, but from a cultural point of view, again, Celestine, yeah, you see the value of the culture of the individual, right? It's almost identical to the service that they are going to provide if you look at it. So if you look at someone who's well-grounded, is well-cultured, you expect a certain level of service from that person. You know, is that something that you think is in alignment with what we are trying to do? So the more you get culturally embedded, the more service you give and the more quality.
Yes, and there are two things there. Parents and elders must ensure that we teach our children our culture and the virtues of our culture, the values of our culture. There are two things. We must first go through the parents. When we were in Lagos, we couldn't speak my language. My father seconded us, conscripted us all to Agbo for 1 year in our school, so we can speak our culture. Parents must ensure that their children can speak their language and teach them the culture first. Then you begin to make sure those kids are growing up in the. I see some Nigerians today, you know, and they can't even speak their culture. These are children born and raised in Nigeria. I left Nigeria 26 years ago, 1994, 29th of May.
That made me feel really bad though, because I don't speak any of my languages correctly. But the culture is very, very instilled in me.
Fine, language is not the totality of culture.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Language, I have seen some who can't speak their language, but they're more a cultural ambassador of those who speak language.
You're right.
What is culture? Culture, I tell people, culture number one, let me break it down quickly. A proper African, well-schooled in his culture, will be a good ambassador of his country and his tribe.
You're right.
You will be a good citizen anywhere you find yourself. You will respect the culture of that land where you find yourself. You will have a wife and children. Respect your wife. You won't beat your wife. You won't abuse your wife. You will ensure you increase her capacity. My wife today is a professor. When I met her, she was not a professor. I supported her. I went with her. She has a PhD today. She's a professor, a clinician, and the reigning professor of Webster College in America. And some people were telling me, oh, don't do that. Once she's a professor, she won't respect you. I'm like, that is not African. Yeah. You are a man and you have your house under control. As the African culture dictates, you will have your wife and children well settled. So I tell people, let's sponsor our daughters, our women. The African culture doesn't say women should not aspire for the highest heights. That is un-African.
Oh, no. I mean, going back from what you said, I'm in the same situation because growing up, my mom was a teacher when we were growing up. She was teaching in the secondary school. And then we saw her go to the university to teach. And now, just a few years ago, she became a professor as well. So you see that journey and you say, yes, I mean, empowerment comes from having the right cultural footing or grounding per se. If you have that, you know the values, you can, you know, more or less cascade it down to your immediate wife, children, and all the other good people around you. If I ask just Ernesto, if you don't mind, give us a 1 minute of your time just to wrap this up on a level. Can you, just in terms of giving back, give us 1 or 2 insights, that valuable insights from your culture and how you've, based on what you know about the Italian culture. I know you guys have a lot of emotions and compassion. How does that transcend to giving back to a culture where you found yourself? So using the Italian values and culture, how does that resonate, and how do you give back using that which you already know?
Well, in essence, to me, giving back and primarily I look at the southern part of Italy. Right. Giving back is basically looking at the people that you're with as a family. So really the culture that, as I'm trying to set within the organization, is to basically treat each other as brothers and grow spiritually in masculinity as brothers. And as an Italian, I'm trying to basically embrace all our people as family. So in essence, this is what I'm trying to bring to the group. The Italian tradition is togetherness, is a unity, working together, singing together, eating together, mangia, sing. You know, that's you know, and also, you know, as I've noticed, you know, some parts of Africa I know my mother always told me that my grandfather or uncle of my grandfather or brother, whatever, a family member, used to go in Africa during the war, whatever he was doing. And so that in Sicily too, we have a lot of culture from Northern Africa in Sicily. So in essence, that's how I'm, you know, that's to me giving back from the Southern Italian culture, is to bring the unity, to bring the family into the organization.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Great stuff. Excellent.
So please, if you can grant audience to Enaholo. I see one of our elders, Greg. I don't know if that's the one I know in America, or maybe that's your guess.
Okay, that's fine. Greg is on the line. If I would, it would be nice to hear from someone. Obviously, if Greg can tell us in terms of giving back. This is a good place to wrap things up. We want to know how best can we give back based on the cultural values that we have. We all have certain kind of cultural values. Celestine, you in particular, not only because I know where you're coming from, because you are pushing to make sure people understand the values in it. Right? I'm trying to get Greg, but it's not. But let's just continue with you for 1 minute to say, hey, look, can you wrap it up for us as well? All right, in terms of giving back, and how do we now align with that? Obviously, you know what the platform is about, and you know it's a case of, look, there's going to be follow-ups. I would like to highlight the programs you're running, and maybe amplify it on a level, or maybe find ways to package it and drop it somewhere as tiny nuggets for people to see. Is it possible to package that and send it to your community to know that even 6,000 miles away, you're being celebrated? I think that's something that would keep communities going, don't you think?
Yes. I think wherever you find yourself, be true to yourself. Whatever God you serve, understand that it is more blessed to give than to receive. Be respectful of that culture wherever you find yourself. Be proud of who you are, and reach back to where you're coming from, to the less privileged.
That's right.
To assist them. Now, assisting people doesn't mean you wait till you have $1 million. No, it can be buying 5 used kiddies STEM laptop, send to your village, or have programs in your school, in your town, to assist people. Call your principal in your school and say, I want to institute a scholarship. The best behaved, the best in science and technology. Every year I'll give them 10,000 naira. It can be little. Whatever you are, give back to the society, whether here or wherever you find yourself. But always understand, you are who you are. Be proud of yourself. Represent your culture wherever you find yourself. If you can send your kids to do Halloween and co, when you go to a Nigerian function to break cola, is not an offense. You know, so wherever you find yourself, serve your God. I really want Enaholo to say something.
Yeah, no problem. We'll get to an hour. If you can wrap it up, because that's great.
That's my message.
My take from that one, to be honest, you're highlighting that we really need to amplify our cultural awareness and drop that as valuable nuggets for the next generation. That's what I'm getting from your wrap up, which is great. Mr. Enaholo, Celestine obviously has requested that, you know, you give us 1 or 2 nuggets in terms of, you know, how do we give back? We are out here in the diaspora, and we're talking about culture and how that affects not only our lives, but also how it affects the life of us in Nigeria as well. Using that format, if you can, you know, just highlight for us, because obviously we're out of time, how best do you think, or how we can leverage that situation by being culturally aware out here in the diaspora, amplifying it and the value it gives to people back home?
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to air my own view about this topic. I actually came in late. The way I see we in the diaspora to spread our culture is through our own children. You have to teach your children, your cultural values, and they will in turn carry it along. I know I have 3 kids, and they were all born here, but they can speak my language and they understand my language.
Excellent.
And as a result of that, there are certain things they do and they don't do. And if their colleagues are doing it, they say, no, our culture doesn't allow us to do that.
Right.
Now, I happen to be the cultural director of my community here, and we try to portray everything Esan. I'm from Esan, by the way, in Chicago. I live in the Chicago area.
Right.
Even our dance, the masquerade, we do it here, and anytime we do it, everybody come around to see what we do. And in the process, we try to explain to those around what we do and what it signifies. And we have done a lot of marriages where I have also helped to conduct.
Right.
And they always at awe when they see the way we do our marriages, which is different from their own kind of marriage. And all these are ways of which we can spread our own culture,
right,
and making our children here to imbibe what we're doing. And in that case, they will also carry it, in future as they move along.
You're right. That is that's thank you so much, because those are the kind of values we're looking for. And I'm so glad you mentioned that you're the cultural director. You see, those positions, we might just look at them like mere positions, but they're really deep rooted in empathy. So for you to put yourself out there to be a cultural director far thousands and thousands of miles away from home, it shows that there is a lot of empathy that you can relate with, especially where you're coming from. So thank you for that. Celestine, I appreciate the fact that you've done that. But hey, let's look at it, a nice wrapping up of things, right? I've known you for X amount of years, and obviously I know the kind of family you are from. The key thing that we've tried to unlock today is that awareness of who we are, right? That empathy that guides us to say, look, the value from what I know, all right, it's not wasted, it's not useless. It can affect the next person. It doesn't matter if you are not a Nigerian, regardless of where you're from, because I have culture, you should be able to trust the values that would come from me. If you understand the culture, if you take that time, right? So my dear friend, a word of goodbye for you would be great. If you can just wrap it up, and hope you had a great time on this. So a message for us in the diaspora, especially, to keep on going and keep the alignment going would be nice.
Quickly, wherever you find yourself, let's be true ambassadors. Regardless of what people say to you, keep doing it. You're not doing it for anyone. You're doing it for yourself. Sometimes my friends, my wife will say, who is paying you for all this? Nobody's paying you. Why are you doing all this? I keep saying, I'm not doing it to be paid. I'm doing it so people will know where I come from, to awake some of them. Because sometimes they don't know. As I said before, you can't give what you don't have.
That's right.
Sometimes they don't know. I've been to events with the state governor here, and sometimes they will tell me, why are you covering like this?
Yeah, you said.
Sometimes I go to some events, I use my back and I go in. I'm there like, what is this? I say, when you were in a secret court in Nigeria, that's the way they walk in. So just like the Japanese, they have those ninjas. They portray ninjas today. That is what we're doing. So let's keep doing it. Let's be good ambassadors. Don't be ashamed of who you are. But most especially respect the culture and the traditions of the land you find yourself.
Great
stuff. That is all.
Fantastic stuff. I knew it was going to be a great time talking to you. That's why I intentionally did not want to have a conversation with you prior, because you probably just say everything on that call. So thank you very much. I mean, for the guys who contributed, for Mr. Greg, and obviously to Ernesto, please keep us, remember us in your prayers, and
yes, I will.
Especially for unity and this alignment. So I just want to say, hey, look, thank you so much, and going forward, there might be a situation where we want to talk about alignment, not just our own kind of culture, but other cultures. So that might be something that we might discuss at some point.
Thank you.
Guys. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.